Welcome back to another edition of the Voodoo Podcast. I have another interview here for you on the March edition. This is probably one of the scariest men in the industry. He might look holly and jolly during Christmas, but he is lit up with sparks like a menacing Christmas tree the other 11 months of the year. He's been at numerous different haunted events, and he is the king of costume adaptation when it comes to his surroundings. Please welcome to the Voodoo Podcast, Slider Jesus.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
We're happy to have you. You've been on the list for a while here. Of course, we've seen you at multiple locations now. But before you were the Slider Jesus, what was your time like in the haunt industry, and what was your character or characters plural like in before the slide gear? And how did you get your scares before you could just sneak up on people
Sure.
like that?
Yeah. Way before. It's funny. I just did a podcast yesterday with Dozer, Pongo Joe, and Sharky, and we
Oh,
were
okay.
just kind of talking about So we just kind of talked about this. This okay. Before Slider Jesus, there was I just walked up to the haunted house and basically was like, hey, I want to try acting because it looks awesome. And they're like, all right, cool. Well, I had a beard. So they said, all right, we're going to put you in chainsaw because it's kind of like the hillbilly redneck thing to do, you know? And they're like, you're going to fit in well. So they gave me a chainsaw. Uh, Mind you, it was 2 days before we opened. So like I didn't do any of the actor training or anything. They just kind of like, yeah, we'll take you. Hell yeah, come on in. So they gave me a chainsaw and I really had no idea what to do. And they were like, well, don't touch anybody with it. It's a real chainsaw without a chain. I was like, cool. And I really was like kind of real nervous and scared because I had no idea what I was supposed to do. And sure enough, the chainsaw does most of the work for you. So the
Right.
first group, I just fired it up, started running at people, and they ran. And like, I mean, instantly, I was like, all right, I'm hooked. So for the first year, that's what I did is chainsaw, and I went by the character Chainz at that time. So that only lasted a year.
Gotcha. Yeah, now there's another Chains. We just had him on
Yeah,
I think it was the January episode now, 2 episodes removed, but we're going to get into him in a moment because I know you two have now crossed paths. But where was this at? Because I know my group and I actually met you at D.E.A.D Rising. Is that where you got your start? And what can you kind of say about that haunt? We just spoke to Terry Mannix last month. He does the Lost Souls Chicago bus tour with Japes, and he was talking about having connections to ownership there as well. So what was that like? And is that where you got your start?
no, that's pretty. It's incorrect, but it's also the birth of my travel acting.
Okay.
So I actually started at Midnight Terror, which is
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's like 10 miles away from D.E.A.D Rising. And D.E.A.D Rising, they used to do a show every month, and it was an extreme hands-on event
Wow.
every month. Yeah. So my first year after Halloween, well, I stuck around and I joined the build crew. So every month we'd hear about this, and eventually we went to it a few times, and it was like extreme. Something I'd never seen before. You know, like people were duct taping us, shoving us in boxes. I mean, it was pretty. In retrospect, it's kind of PG-13 compared to some of the stuff I do because I've worked a handful of extreme haunts and it gets pretty intense. But eventually, I hung out one night after a show, and the owner, um, John, who has passed away now,
Yeah.
um, he was a great dude, man. I just enjoyed listening to his stories, man. He was one of the original Dream Reaper guys too. So, um, but eventually he was like, "Hey, when are you gonna come guest act?" And I was like, "Am I allowed to?" You know. And so I went and talked to Justin, the owner of Midnight Terror, like, "Hey, I'd really like to go do this." And he's like, "Yeah, man, go ahead." So that was my first guest act appearance ever at D.E.A.D Rising.
Wow.
So
Okay. So we met you, my group, we came across your character in 2020 there. Terry was telling me all these stories about John, and I wish I got a chance to meet him too, because he sounds like an amazing guy. And yeah, the Dream Reapers connections, it seems like a lot of really cool, really good haunt people have come from that. And it's a little before my haunting time. I should say my haunted housing time. I was a little kid, so I was like, still just seeing the lawn displays and still big into Halloween, but still too chicken to go through any major haunted houses. But when we went through D.E.A.D Rising in 2020, it was during the summer, and I was under the impression, but now it sounds like it may have just been a regular occurrence for them. I was under the impression that they weren't going to be able to open due to COVID rules later on in October, so they were doing some kind of midsummer type thing. And that was when we met you, and you bring up the duct tape. You had duct taped me to a friend of mine, which luckily he was a larger man, so we weren't exactly nose to nose, making out with each other. But yeah, that was quite the experience. We went through D.E.A.D Rising and got mustard poured on our hands. There was one room where we had syrup poured on us. And we were expecting this going in to an extent because we had gone through some bloodbath nights at other haunts. And so we're like, yeah, it'll wash out of our clothes. We were not ready at all. Like we were so unprepared. And not only did they hit you with the syrup, but then there was that kitchen room I think they had, and or maybe the syrup was there, and then later on in the kitchen room they had what was supposed to look like lines of cocaine, but it was baking powder or flour, and then they just blew it all on you, and you're all sticky with the syrup already. So now that's sticking to you. So that was quite the experience, and I wish we had gotten to visit D.E.A.D Rising a couple more times before that shut down because that was interesting. I don't think I've ever done anything like that.
It was a great haunt because it flew under the radar.
Yeah,
Chicago is a no-touch state, so the haunt was so small that and it didn't get big crowds. It stayed under the radar, and it was kind of one of those things where if you know somebody, you can kind of find it because it was a hard building to find. In
that's true
general.
too.
Yeah, I don't remember doing that to you, by the way. I really don't.
No, it's all good. I think there was a chair involved at one point. I don't remember if it was myself or one of our other friends that got duct taped. But even from just the line, just meeting you in the line, we were like, okay, yeah, the bar has been set a little higher now. We have to be ready here.
That was a good time, man. I miss that place dearly.
Joe, you've I'm gonna get into all the Illinois stuff in just a moment, but you mentioned some other harder core or PG-13 and above
Uh,
opportunities that you've had. You've cameoed at other haunts throughout the area, but you're such a talented actor and influential person that they've invited you out to do some other things in other states, even. One of them I noticed was Woods of Terror in Greensboro, North Carolina. What was that like, and how similar is it to being in the woods walk of, spoiler alert, we're going to get into this, but Hell's Gate itself?
well, that's a tough one. It's two giants. It really is. Woods of Terror raised me as a haunter because they started the social media stuff way before anybody else did. So they
Oh, wow,
made
really?
their icons. Yeah, they made their icons legendary. And this is back, 2019 when TikTok wasn't really a thing. And I was so excited to go there and just to meet everybody. I was just in awe because I finally got to meet all these people that I was just, they were gods to me, and they still are. And the haunt was absolutely awesome as well too. So very, very well done. The midway is what I really appreciated about it. They let me fire breathe out there, which I hardly
Oh,
ever get to
wow.
do. Yeah. And the craziest thing is I asked to do it at almost every haunt, and they're kind of like, "Are you insured?" I'm like, "No, not really, but I'm safe." And then they're like, "No, you can't do it." At Woods, they were like, "Yeah, here, here's your lamp oil, and then here's some kerosene, here's your tiki. Go ahead, have fun." I'm like, "You serious?" So yeah, we had a ball doing that, man. It was Trickster with their fire breather there. He took me right under his wing because I'd never performed with anybody before, and
Oh,
that was
wow.
amazing, man. They treat you like family, you know.
That's insane.
Um, and there's no comparison, honestly, because it's like Hell's Gate has done so much for me. That's such a tremendous haunt. If you've been through it, and it just keeps getting better. So it's a hard question to really, you know, it, I don't know which one I like
Apples and oranges,
more.
kind of.
Yeah, really, they're one and the same to me. Now, the kicker, the year previous, I had actually guest acted at Netherworld, and
Okay, that's another big one.
they're yeah, they're one of the biggest ones in the world,
Yeah,
and that was a treat too. Same thing. This is like, to me, these are the three major players in the game, and so to be able to work at all of these and have the owners know me by name, like how, like to me, that it's just, I was absolutely humbled and just honored to be on these grounds, even. So
that's awesome. Yeah, we spoke to Danny Panic, and previously, even before that, one of our first episodes of the podcast, Ozo the Clown, and they had taken
yeah,
a trip out to Netherworld this past year, and they were talking about it. I had heard the stories. I know all of the great stuff that they do down there. I was not familiar with the North Carolina game. I'm sorry, North Carolina. I wasn't aware of Terror Woods of Terror, right?
yeah, yeah.
And then I saw it on your story, and then there was another haunt actor that was at. He's a zombie. Is it Vax? He goes by Vax.
That's
That was
yeah, the
there
7 foot
too.
zombie.
Yeah, he's that one. I mean, he could be a basketball player too. I mean, that guy is tall, and that's half the work right there when you're trying to look menacing too. Is there's just the height that comes into it. So that's
Hmm.
pretty crazy. But fire breathing, we talked to Caleb Wimbush too a couple months ago,
Yeah,
and he was saying that there were fire dancers that get called to come and perform at HellsGate for a couple of nights. But yeah, they should throw you in there. How hard is it, or where did you learn to become a fire breather? That's insane.
uh, inspiration came from Dead City Collective because that's a lot of what they do, and then also myself, I guess. Like, what's the next step I can do? Like, what else can I do? I've already done the sliding thing. Uh, I'm half on fire as it is every time I slide. So like, yeah. So what is the next boundary I can push? So I was really like, really just motivated to get into it. And it looks good. It's a crowd pleaser. Everybody loves it. So
Yeah. I thought about doing it. So when we do our haunt here, we have a home haunt. It's a walk through garage haunted house, but we build out onto the driveway and up and around the backyard. And I was able to stand on the structure that we put on the driveway the way we build it. And this year I had the slider gear, so it was a little bit trickier, but doable. And then especially with the snow on Halloween, that was not going to happen. That was just a an insurance policy waiting to get used. But I wanted to try to see if I can learn how to do something like that because I'd be up there and I'm like, if I'm up on top of my driveway and then just breathing fire out, like that's going to catch people's eyes for sure. But when I
absolutely.
kind of looked into some of it, it's I guess there's a lot of, well, of course there's obviously dangers to it using fire, but I guess you don't want to breathe the wrong way. And then what I was hearing was you basically have to be drinking like Everclear if you want to do it that route to have enough alcohol in your mouth. So I don't know how you do it, but there's got to be a much simpler way than what I've looked up.
I'll teach you how, man.
Okay.
I'll
It
show you.
sounds good. That's pretty cool. All right, that'll be my party trick for any parties I go to.
There you go.
But yeah, so we mentioned Hell's Gate, but even before that, you've gone on to work at a bunch of other haunted houses and events, but arguably none as famous. And I say arguably because we just mentioned those three heavy hitters. None as famous as Statesville Haunted Prison, which
Mhm.
was your first time getting to work with Zombie Army Productions. We saw in your testimonials in Feeding the Beast, 25 years of Statesville Haunted Prison. If you guys haven't seen that, go check that out. That's on Zombie Army's YouTube page. It's actually one of the episodes of Days of the Living Dead. But what was it like to have switched over from places like D.E.A.D Rising and
Mhm.
anywhere else, even North Carolina that you've done to Statesville, especially in their final season?
Well, that was that was one hell of a roller coaster, man. That was I still don't I'm still kind of in awe by the series of events that had happened with that leading up to that. So I was raised at all these other haunts to, the legendary Statesville. And I had only gotten to walk through it one time, and that was a couple of years prior. And yeah, it's absolutely just a rock show, man. and it is like one of the coolest haunted houses, man. It was just you'd have to see it to know what I'm talking about. But it
Oh
was
yeah.
just a rock show from start to finish, man. But anyways, so what had happened is I was the build manager at Midnight Terror for almost 5 years. It was kind of just time for me to move on. I had actually moved to Joliet, Illinois, so Oak Lawn's kind of a hike from there too. Nothing bad happened, you know. I hold no ill will towards Midnight Terror, and I love them dearly. I truly do. Every time I see everybody, I give them hugs, and they
Yeah.
will forever hold a place in my heart. But it was time for me to move on. So I thought, what better place, Statesville, you know? And I remember I rode my motorcycle up there, and you know, this is a month before the open, and I'm like, hey, I know you guys don't really know me. And then, of course, a couple of them, they were like, holy shit, it's you. And I was, but like realistically, I was like, oh my God, it's you, you know,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
this, this is Statesville, guys. Like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm here. And I basically just said, hey, is John or Kyle around? I'd love to have a talk. And so eventually we hooked up, and yeah, they put me right out there. And to my knowledge, I am the first person ever to get a queue line or tent position new hire from there.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I expected to just work in a drop panel. I didn't care, you know. I just wanted to be part of that magic. And for it being their last year, holy shit, man, it was absolutely insane. One night we were there till 3:30 in the morning in costume. I'm not talking like leaving. I mean, we were still in costume outside, you know, walking around in the tent at 3:30 in the morning.
Holy
And
cow.
it it was insane. I think the line was 5 hours long at one point. Um, it was it was something to behold. It was just incredible. I wouldn't take that back. It was definitely a highlight of my career that
Oh
year.
my gosh. I mean, yeah, I mean that just speaks to how great of a show that was because, you talk about, just the line being 5 hours. I mean, that means people are literally waiting the 5 hours still to see this
Yep.
in its last year. And I went twice, and the first time was very new to haunted houses and was thrilled, of course. But the second time was in that final year, and then I sat there and I was like, man, I wish we had more years, But we do now that there is Hell's Gate, and now that you are at Hell's Gate, there are fewer concrete patches for you to slide on, which calls for you to adapt your scaring and sparking techniques a little more. When I did have Caleb on, he was telling me that by the end of the season, your costume is being held together by duct tape and whatever else you can find to, keep you basically with the patches on. But how do you improvise and even come up with the ideas to attach the sandpaper to you for the splint rods to even still work?
Oh God, that's a lot. So yeah, Hell's Gate doesn't really have any sliding, and I get asked that all the time when people call me, like owners for other haunts. They're like, "Hey, we'd love to have you down, but I don't think you're going to want it because we don't have anywhere to slide." Well, I am more than just a slider. Like I'm an actor, you know, and I've worked at Hell's Gate now for two years, 2 seasons. Yeah, 2 seasons, and many other haunts where there is no sliding, and
Gotcha.
I don't mind that. You know, I am an actor at foremost, a slider second. Pongo Joe teaches that actor first, slider second,
Okay.
and
Okay.
it's just a tool. You know, like it's something that I'm fairly good at, but it's just a tool. You know,
Right.
so yeah, I had to really kind of hone in on the whole. I didn't even need to wear knee pads, but just people kind of knew me by the knee pads. So um, it's funny. There was like asphalt patches about the size of a bathtub just randomly in the parking lot, and they were covered in dust and dirt. So like you couldn't see them that well. So every once in a while, I'll try and slide on them just for like a few feet. But I'd say 25% of the time I eat shit. So
Yeah.
it kind of, yeah, it's almost just not even worth trying, you know.
Yeah,
But
that's rough.
yeah, no, it's fine. But you find other ways and you find other things to entertain people. And I started talking a little bit more. I used to just speak in German. That was it.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I used to either whisper or yell German at people, and that was my communication. But when you're stuck with people for 2 hours and you can't do, your slide thing, you kind of got to adapt and learn some other things. So I started talking with people a little bit more. Um, the spark thing, the sandpaper thing, that's a crowd pleaser. Everyone really likes that. That was kind of like my bread and butter at the time. I kind of created the whole spark thing. Like nobody really did it before I kind of came up with it. But now everyone's doing it, but not a lot of people are doing, some of the finer tricks that I'm doing. You know what I mean? But I get asked about that a lot. How do you do this? How do you do that? And it's like, well, my usual response is if you can't figure it out, you don't deserve to like even try it because it's not hard to figure out. You can look at my costume and kind of figure it out. Um, so as far as costume being held together, yeah, did a lot more crawling, a lot more running, a lot more just acrobatic stuff, and my costume is just shredded now at this point. So I'm due for an overhaul. And this past year at Transworld, I actually got to speak with quite a few costume makers, and something new is in the works with my costume. So,
Ooh, all right.
yeah.
Oh, you
So,
heard it here first, folks. That's pretty cool. Well, but you even, as you mentioned right there, you have kind of revolutionized this industry because another haunt actor buddy of yours, Chainz, who we briefly mentioned from Disturbia, aka Nicholas Serralo, he asked me to ask you about the company that you had called Rough Contact. Many don't realize that you actually created slider pucks, is what he told me. And that what was the reason for the sudden stop in business? Because he said he knows a lot of haunt actors would love to have you back.
bless his heart. I love that man. I love him so much. I'm going to call him directly after this. Yeah, listen, it's funny you mentioned that, and he mentioned that because the Christmas event that we were just at, he brought his whole gear box and he had a few pucks still left over from when we used to sell them. And I was like, oh my God, I showed my manager. And at the time, he was my business partner with the Rough Contact. And like, it just kind of warmed our heart to see like they're still out there, the stuff that we made. And people are still using it too, which is great. But yeah, what had happened is I created pucks that go on your knee pads, plates that go on your feet, and like a strip that goes on your hand. And so many people wanted it, and people were just like begging us to sell it. So what we kind of went into the business of it, and we did okay. It was, nobody got rich, obviously, but we ran into a problem. COVID hit. That was a big issue because we were getting a lot of our stuff overseas. And towards the end of it, a lot of people, like, I'm not going to name names, but there's another company out there that like ripped off our idea hardcore. And I don't support them. I wish them the best, but I don't support them myself. So you had some competition now involved. And, when you're, how do I, when you're just doing your stuff by yourself, just me and my friend, Eric, it's like you put money into something, you make it, you send it out, and they say, well, I didn't get it. Well, now I got to eat it and send another one, for
Right.
instance. So little things like that, it just, and every day I was going to the post office and I was super busy. And it's just like, man, like this kind of isn't worth it anymore. So
Yeah.
it,
Well, Nick didn't tell me that he was a business partner in that aspect. I should have figured since he's a slider too, but he's
no,
basically plugging himself here.
no, not Nick, Eric. No, Nick,
Okay.
Nick had just bought a few, you know what I
Oh,
mean?
gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
And it was funny because me and Nick didn't know each other. He was just a fan, and I was a fan of him.
Yes.
And he ended up just ordering a few, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's you!" And so that's kind of how we met, actually.
Yeah, I mean he talked a lot about you when he was on his episode, and
Cool.
I mean, like I said, talented actor and influential person that you've even started a tradition at Disturbia of sketching on the back of their mini go-kart. And even I guess on the back of, I don't know if this was you, but I know that it's happened at Disturbia, but the back of Japes's big bus tour. So how different and fun is that parking lot for you as the slider side of things rather than the actor side?
That parking lot's fun. Have you been to Disturbia?
Oh yeah, I've been to them all. Trust me, I've been everywhere.
Okay. Disturbia is
At
a lot
least
of
here in
fun.
Illinois.
Yeah. The only problem with Disturbia is that it has a fresh coat of tar, so there's no sparking. But
Right.
you definitely like slide a very, very long ways. And that was one of those cool places, man. Yeah, they just kind of like I always test the waters whenever I go someplace respectfully, of course.
Yeah.
But they just kind of had this little buggy out there, and I was just like, hell yeah, man! Like I'm grabbing this thing. I'm gonna grab it until I get yelled at, And turns out they loved it. So and the crowd loved it, and as a slider, I mean, you probably understand this too. If you get hurt, it's your own damn fault, you know.
Yeah.
So take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, it was Chainz that actually helped us get all set up with the slider gear because we were thinking of things to add to our haunt this year. And as a home haunt, I mean, once you've expanded across the driveway, you've got the front lawn set up in the backyard, and we open up to a soccer field. So I mean, we have a lot of room to play with. We don't necessarily use the park district room, but it adds to the environment, of course. And we were like, what can we do? We were thinking about adding to our characters, and I was like, well, I would really want to try sliding. And Chain set us up with a lot of that stuff, told us what kind of materials to get, and then when we tried it out, my idea was, all right, the cul-de-sac that we're in is rough, so I don't know if that's going to work. Turned out I was thinking the exact opposite thing because that was the perfect place for us to slide. And then
Mm-hmm.
even on the driveway, and then it was the apron that we first tried it on, and that was a different coating of concrete. And yeah, we had some sore hips for for a couple of weeks, bruises all
Sure.
up and down. And but you know what? I mean, it's so fun. It's honestly worth it.
Yeah.
So now that you are at Hell's Gate and well adjusted, Caleb wanted to know, this is straight from him, how does your character fit into the theme of the darkness with the twins, mother, the dragon queen, and etc.? And does Cider Jesus kind of have a backstory that kind of flows into that whole overarching theme?
Oh God. Yes and no to all of that. It has a backstory, but okay, so I'm not going to go into the whole backstory. Um, it but the story of the Statesville thing was kind of like the turning point I felt for that character. This never came to fruition because we just didn't have enough time, and we just didn't have enough time. But the idea was we were going to get together and with my TikTok magical powers with my phone would basically make a makeshift video of the uh, what is it, like a paddy wagon, if you will, police
Okay.
paddy wagon
Yeah.
pulling up to Statesville, and the guards coming out of it, and then basically taking me out in all restraints and just kind of tossing me at the prison, and like basically like the prisoners telling them like, we got one, you guys can have them, and then basically, their care Sharky and Fluffy are kind of like, oh, good, welcome home kind of thing. And that was kind of going to be how like the police caught me, if you will. And that was going to be my introduction to Statesville, but obviously there just wasn't enough time to do any of that. But so that was my introduction to Statesville, basically. And as far as the Statesville thing to Hell's Gate, um, we actually made a video about that. It's
Yes.
somewhere out there. Have you seen it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's of all the
Um,
prison break and getting on the bus to what is supposed to be an abandoned house, but doesn't look quite abandoned. And then everybody's walking up to a brightly lit Hell's Gate with all of Hell's Gate's cast and characters waiting on the front lawn for you.
you've seen it very well.
Can you
Yeah,
can you tell I'm a fan? Yeah. No,
yeah,
I mean
man.
it is some really nice storytelling, and when I had John the Fanboy on the podcast, it's really nice to hear that this is the direction that haunted houses are going. Is not just here's the butcher room, and oh, there's the guy cutting up meat at the table, and then you're moving into, oh, here's the ghost room or something like that. Like everything has a story to it. So there's more involvement in both the characters, the fans, and then just, of course, the environment in itself all makes sense, and it feels connected in a way.
Yes, it's not just a sandbox.
Yeah, yeah, and then you feel like you're actually in. This is what I tell everybody is when they say, where do I go in October? And I say, well, I mean, of course, a lot of great ones. And some people have even come back to me and they're like, oh, Hell's Gate isn't the scariest. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, I mean, it is, but it isn't. Like it's the best haunt for your money because the fact that it has this sense that you are in a scary movie. You're getting taken into the woods. You're going on a whole woods walk and you're being thrown into the environment and the atmosphere that, the Evil Dead characters were, or literally any movie that has your main characters in a forest headed up to an old abandoned house that they think is, of course, a great idea. And let's hide behind the chainsaws in the barn, like that commercial. But I mean, that's literally what Hell's Gate is. So for some, yeah, it's not scary. For most haunters, like even John was saying, there's not a lot that scares us anymore, but we can appreciate and smile and sure get spooked every once and now and then, but really enjoy our time there. And that's what Hell's Gate brings most, especially from start to finish. I mean, you're talking the bus ride to the line is just that Statesville energy in that tent, basically. And then the woods walk, like I mentioned, up to the house. And then as you kind of said, these haunted houses are making midways and the midway that Hell's Gate has, you could be there a whole night, which is enjoyable and great, but also for a guy like me that plans out routes and wants to hit multiple things in one night, it's also a little frustrating because it's like we have to take this 5 hour chunk and dedicate it all to Hell's Gate, which I'm not even mad about, but let's just go hit a bar afterwards instead of going out to another haunt. But it's really an experience, man. It is. And you talk about your character moving from Statesville to Hell's Gate. What is that tent energy like now that you guys are all there? And it has
Oh,
been a marriage between the two.
oh man. Some people are not going to like this response, but um, yeah, we brought that energy with us from Statesville. We brought it, and it's there to stay. You know, that's half the reason I was attracted to Statesville. Their tent, you know, that rock star show. Just it was more than just a line; it was an experience. Whether you're, laughing your ass off, or you're being scared, or you're being chased, machine guns going off above you, loud, Slipknot playing, whatever. That's what drew me in. And once I found out that the tent is going to be similar to that, we're going to have, we got to pick our own songs. We do our same gags as we did at Statesville. We love and cherish that. We do we didn't do it very much this year because I don't know why. We do the Kid Rock Ball at the
Bow
Ball.
at the bar. Yep.
Yeah. Did you ever
Oh
get to
yeah.
see that in person?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my
And
God.
my back hurts just watching some of you guys. I mean,
Oh
bruises in
my
the
God.
line.
Yeah.
Nope. I'd be a chiropractor for like 7 months.
Yep. She is insane. It is awesome. And just we all get involved with that. And what I love about that is we get the crowd involved too. Like I encourage everybody I see with long hair, like, yeah, I'm gonna need your help here. Like, like we're all gonna get involved and this is gonna be a giant fucking mosh pit. And so yeah, if they didn't do stuff like that, I don't know if I'd have stuck around. I like high energy stuff.
Yeah.
That's what my character is, high energy. So yeah, we definitely changed up their tent.
That's awesome. Yeah, we kind of well, of course, we add a lot of the songs that you guys have, whether it was at Statesville or Hell's Gate, and then all the other haunts that were in line. And I'm like, oh, I like that one. Like you mentioned, the Slipknots, the A7X, and anything that we
Sure.
could find. But we added Bawa to Ba to ours here, and we have one friend that acts in ours. but won't go to many of the other ones. So we took him through Massacre for their Christmas one 2 years ago. And yeah, he was terrified because I felt Massacre. They always do a really nice job, but I felt like they didn't change much from the regular haunt to Christmas, except for the line. So once you got into the actual rooms, it was like going through the normal haunted house, and it gets loud in there. And he came out of there looking like he had gone through the war, like he had
Yeah.
some major PTSD. He was staring at a wall for like 5 hours. But yeah, so he won't go anymore, but we've been trying to get him to go to Hell's Gate, and he's always busy. But
Yeah.
I showed him the video that I took of you guys in the line at Hell's Gate, uh rocking out to Kid Rock, and he was like, let's do it at ours. Now we only have caution tape in the line on the driveway because we're not as permanent of a structure. But even then, I was like, as actors, we can still get into that crazy headbanging, like, just insane energy. So we try. Usually the night moves so quickly and we're running around, and some of us do multiple characters at once, like especially when you're going through the actual garage, you can switch from one room and become a completely different character through cut throughs and stuff like that. And so sometimes it's hard to get everybody out there and also keep the line moving at the same time. Everybody wants to be a line actor, of course, but
Yeah.
everybody has to play the role. And even myself, when I'm not on the line, I'm chainsaw guy. I used to have the roller before the slider gear, and we'll get back to this in a second, but before the slider gear, I would put my rollerblades on a lot more. And sometimes I'd be the hockey player up front with the flint rods at the bottom of the hockey stick, and that was
Oh
just
yeah.
the extent as it went. But if we didn't have a chainsaw person, I'd also double as chainsaw. So now you've got a chainsaw dude on skates running at you, which terrified people. So I talked to Nicholas Serralo, and I want to kind of combine everything, but I'll save that for later. But my next question, the topic of chains, he said that you have helped with the slider gear training sessions last spring, I believe, that were in the Disturbia parking lot. What were some of the things that you tell the beginning sliders to help improve and perfect their craft? Were you at those?
No, that wasn't me.
Oh, maybe I'm just remember. I'm definitely remembering that wrong. I know there were probably a bunch of other sliders there, but we had talked so much
Josh.
about your character that
Oh,
he
maybe.
probably didn't say it. I'm just remembering wrong, but I know he runs a couple of those. Are you gonna make it out this
Sure.
year?
I'd like to. I always like to attend all that and see the new sliders and see what they're up to, and just kind of pass what knowledge I have to them, and because sooner or later, like I'm gonna have to call it quits. And I had thought, for God's sakes, I'm 39 years old. Like, trust me. Um, one of these seasons, I'm gonna pass the torch and pick an apprentice, and if they're interested, pass on my whole costume,
Wow.
the whole, scraps name, um, and just let them run with it, like, because I built up something and I don't want to see it die.
Yeah.
So, but no, to answer your question, no, I haven't been to any of those, but I get invited to them all. And it just seems like for one reason or another, I'm always just kind of wrapped up or busy or just that doesn't quite pan out.
Well, my idea that I pitched him that we've kind of talked a little bit about it, but it's still at this point just an idea. I heard it's been kind of attempted before in a way, or even thought of to an extent. But if I could combine the hockey ability of the rollerblades with the slider gear, the only
Mm.
issue is, and we talked through this, is being able to get back up. You don't have something that you could just plant on because you pick your foot back up and you're back on wheels, so you're still moving. But I brought up to him, I'm like, if you're on the ice and you get tripped and you're on your shin pads or your socks and you're sliding into the boards, you have to pop back up and be on your skates because that's the only thing that's going to keep you from slamming into the end boards. So, I mean, obviously, I don't think I'd be running and sliding at people as quickly if I plan on popping back up on the skates, because then instead of being a slider and taking them out at the knees, I'd pop back up and full on check them, knock them over. But I'm definitely tempted to see if I can attempt creating a skate that is protected enough that I can still tie it to my foot and have all the protective capabilities of keeping the laces safe. And I don't know if I'd necessarily have to put a metal toe cap on since they're hockey blades and the carbon toe is thick enough. But I mean, that'll get worn down faster than metal, so probably put that on anyways. But yeah, I'm just kind of spitballing and thinking of how to do this and kind of perfect it in a way. That's my goal this summer. If I do make it out to any of those, is to try to not only perfect sliding and not, fall over like we did a couple of times this year, but also get the rollerblades involved.
You remind me of me a few years ago, man.
Have you done something
Uh,
like this? Because
yeah,
Nicholas was even saying that he's tried Heelys, which were,
yeah.
I haven't worn those in maybe 15 years.
Well, listen, I tried putting wheels on my pads. I tried putting a giant like wheel on each of my toe caps, like welding it on. And like I've tried different stuff. And somebody reminded me, they're like, "Are you sliding or rolling?" And I'm like, "Shit,
True.
you're right." So don't get me wrong. Hey, listen, if the crowd likes it, the crowd likes it, you know.
Right.
But um, my I'm all about it, man. I tell people all the time, especially people that are trying to like, I don't want to say rip off my gear, but like they're trying to be a copycat of me, which I always try to explain to them. I said, listen, the best piece of advice that I can give you, and I'm giving you now and everybody watching this, if you want to stand out from the crowd, do something nobody has ever seen before. Have you ever seen anybody slide with their elbow on the ground? I haven't. Have you ever seen
Yeah.
anybody slide with their helmet with a helmet? Like I haven't. Like reach out, try that different stuff, and you will stand out and you will be an icon because of it. You know?
Yeah.
So who knows, man? I mean, maybe the roller skate thing would work out. I would suggest practicing the shit out of it.
Oh yeah. Definitely. Another thing too is I still use the rollerblades that I have. So if I'm showing up to the rink with metal toe caps, I don't think I could play. I think that's a hockey hazard at that point. So I'll have to either pick up another pair or use this pair and try not to make it something permanent. But the sliding
Velcro.
shoes that I used were also my gym shoes, so I had to switch to another pair. Otherwise, I'd be showing up to do deadlifts in some interesting attire.
I would suggest Velcro.
Velcro. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. That's oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I know Chainz uses a lot of zip ties with his regular
Yep.
shoes, but yeah, Velcro would work too. All right. Yeah.
Oh no, no, I
I'll,
meant for the toe cap. For the
Oh
toe
yeah, yeah,
cap.
no, that yeah, I figured that's what
Yeah.
you meant. Yeah, yeah. No, that should work. Yeah, because that's
Listen,
already
man,
what
it's
the knee pads have. So
see, and I'm glad we're talking about this because people ask me all the time, where do I buy this stuff? Where do I buy it? And it's like you don't buy it, you have to make it.
yeah,
Just like we're talking right now, like nobody sells this stuff. And even if they do, they didn't come up with one for a roller skate.
right.
So you have to make this stuff.
Yeah,
People don't understand that. It's not just it's not a cookie cutter art.
yeah. I mean, the only thing that pretty much comes pre-made, if you can, and you can just use them as is, are the knee pads because they're skateboarder
Sure.
knee pads and they fit the job. But like in your case, you're adding all these patches to them and stuff like that. So if you want to stand out, like you said, and be creative, you gotta tweak it. So.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. That'll be in the works coming soon, but I'll have to let you
Keep
know
me
how that
updated.
goes if I'm still alive after trying to attempt that.
You'll be all right.
But so as we mentioned, you guest star at other home Christmas season. You got to dress up like Santa, unlike
Ugh.
Caleb. He was a little upset that they wouldn't let him do that on Halloween when it snowed at HellsGate. But you were at Massacre when we saw you this past Christmas. And about 30 minutes after we went through, you ran into a friend of ours, Scott Darling. How was it meeting a Blackhawks legend? And do you have any stories of any famous people that you have met through acting at any of these haunts?
Uh, yeah, that's a big question. So Scott Darling was there because of me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're like besties.
That's awesome. Oh yeah, he's Lamont, so he's not too far from you, right?
Well, no, he grew up in Lamont, but yeah, what had happened is we through a fellow TikToker. He's a comedian.
Yes.
Um, God, I can't remember his name. What Justin something? Laugh with Justin. Anyways, he's always about charity stuff. So he got me and Scott and this tattoo artist together for a benefit for the St. Jude's.
Oh,
So
nice.
we had met, yeah, we had met there, and now we have matching tattoos, me and him.
Oh, that's sick.
Um, yeah, we actually did a video, a TikTok of the Dumb and Dumber skit where we were both in a hot tub together. So I don't know why I never released it, but it's just because it wasn't done well. But anyways, yeah. So I go to his comedy shows, and he kind of just comes to some haunted house events, and just like he's a cool. He brought me a big bag of candy too for whatever reason. It's
Sick.
just so it's a
Yeah.
cool dude.
Merry Christmas. Happy Halloween.
Yeah, literally, he's all like, "You like candy?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Here you go," and he gives me like a 5 pound bag of candy. I was like, "All right, man, you're awesome." Um, far as celebrities go, like, okay, so have I met any of them? Not really. Um, I was in Hollywood for a few things, but didn't really meet anybody that anybody would know of. But as far as social media goes, now that's a different story. It's incredible what social media can do. And if you
Yep.
do it right, I was just explaining this last night too. Social media is a game. If you want to be good at social media, get good at that game. You know,
Yep.
practice it and do it often, research it, and become very good at that game. Um, I, I like half the members of Five Finger Death Punch follow me.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah. Steven Tyler's daughter follows me. We chat all the time, actually. Um, God, who else? One of the members of Viva La Bam, Leatherface, like he wanted me to do his intro video as my thing, but it didn't quite work out. Um, God, what's her name? She was in Cruel Intent or Basic Instinct. Sharon Stone. She follows me for whatever reason.
Oh. Oh wow. Holy cow.
So yeah, see, I've never met these people, you know what I mean? But I like, a random message here and there, sure. But other than that, no, I'm just, a normal dude.
No, I mean, you have a point to it. I mean, with so myself, I'm going into the media field more so on the sports side, but yeah, that's how you do it. I mean, if it's all networking, which is what a lot of people call college, but social media gives you the opportunity to do it at any age, anywhere, and that's a lot of how we've made connections. How we met Darling, I had met him before at a coming out of a Wolves game. He was still playing for the Ice Hogs at the time, just signing autographs, but that was just a quick sign and go. I worked with his aunt for a number of years at a bank, and she would tell me she married into the family, so she wasn't exactly blood relative, but she would always tell me all these stories about him, and uh, I wasn't allowed to disclose, but we had a customer who also big name in the Chicago area. I still can't give it away, but they the one gentleman came in and he goes, "Oh yeah, I've signed him as a player to play in multiple different NHL cities." And I was like, "Oh wow!" So we kind of bonded over that too. He was a really nice man too. I still have him through texts, but Darling, it just so happened I was leaving that same job one day, headed to a Fall Out Boy concert at Wrigley. And we sit down and we're on the field. We're maybe 20 rows from the pit, maybe not even, honestly. And we look down the row and there's this unmistakable big tall dude with a big red beard. And I'm like, that's Scott Darling. And my mom's a big Blackhawks fan. So we're sitting there and we're like, ooh, and eyeing and trying not to fanboy too much, but he looks down and then sure enough, I mean, we're sitting right next to him. So he's talking to us through the whole concert. And that was amazing. Well, it was a week before the NHL draft in Nashville and we were headed down. And he's like, well, if you're going down, go a day early because I'm doing a comedy show on the Tuesday night. So we went down for his comedy show and met a couple of the Barstool members, White Sox Dave. He and I
Mhm.
cried a little bit because we're both White Sox fans, and it's been a rough couple of years. But then, went out on to, of course, the main drag down there in Nashville. And who do we run into on the street is Scott Darling. And we should have been the ones looking up, but here we are, tourists looking at where to go on our phones, and all of a sudden we hear somebody go, "Hey guys!" And we look up and it's Scott Darling. I'm like, I should be the one like being excited to see you. You're just excited to see us. So really nice guy. And then when I saw that, of course, he does all the Wednesday nights at Zany's, I was like, we got to hit one of these. So we just went
Yep.
last week, and it was funny. He remembered us, and he was like, "Oh yeah, which concert you going to next?" And we're talking about another Fall Out Boy up in Michigan. He wants to go see Pierce the Veil, and somebody else was opening for them, I think. But you know who was there at that show? He introduced us was the drummer for Senses Fail, and so we shook hands. I didn't really know them, but I'd heard the name, but I started listening to their stuff after that. But I didn't know the guy's name, but got to shake his hand. That was pretty cool. So yeah,
Yeah.
Darling's a really nice guy. They're super down to earth, and you can tell he's definitely homegrown. You know.
Yeah. No, he's salt of the earth, man. Like it was like we just hit it off when we met down at that tattoo thing, and we just like shared stories, and he's just so cool to talk to, and yeah, cool dude. I'm glad I ran across him, man. He's awesome.
Yeah, and when we went through Massacre, of course, we were interested to see all of you guys in the line and all the special actors cameoing there. But then all of a sudden, I think I had seen your no, I saw a Darling story first, and I was like, wait, what? I was like, we were just there. I'm like, we just took a picture with Slider, and here's Darling's picture with Slider. So that was wild. So I messaged him that night too, and he was like, wait, what? I think he was so confused because we know him through the hockey world, and I don't think he knew that we kind of dabbled in this. So that was fun.
Isn't that awesome, man?
Yeah, yeah, really small world and interesting the way connections are made too. Like we had Caleb on. One of the girls that does the haunted house with us is a girl that I went to school with. She's the girlfriend of my best friend, and her mom and dad and Caleb's parents have known each other for forever. They do circus together. And then sure enough, Caleb's at HellsGate, and I was like, we need to just connect all these dots here. So that was insane too.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
But so you just got back from Trans World. As
Oh,
haunters, we always hear how different it is than Midwest Haunters Convention based on the props and the products on the show floor. I've only ever been to MHC. I have not made it down to Trans World yet. But how different is it from a haunt actor standpoint?
from a haunt actor's keyword actor, that's the big difference there.
Yeah.
Um, it's like MHC, but like times 10.
Okay.
And the biggest difference there is they have, you know, props and, there's not a lot of cash and carry there. So it's mainly for owners, builders, and buyers. That's basically, the big difference there is that, haunt owners are going there to spend a lot of money and to, shape their season
Yeah.
basically, and talk with owners and talk with prop designers, costume people, all this and that. So it's more geared towards owners. MHC is very haunter related, actor based. So,
Gotcha. Yeah.
do we got time for a quick fun story?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go for it. As
So
long
my
as you
first
do.
year, I do. So my first year at Transworld, I'm starry eyed, and I had no reason to be there. I really didn't, but my haunt took me, and it was great. So I'm into sliding now at this point, and I ask a camera guy, somebody filming, I'm like, hey, is there any slider gear around here? Like, have you seen any? He's like, no, but that guy over there probably knows. You can go ask him. So I go up to this guy, and he's sculpting a mask, sculpting clay, probably $1,000 mask, whatever he's making. I don't know. And I'm like, hey, is there any sliding gear around here? He's like, no, not really, man. I was like, oh, well, I was told you were kind of the guy you would know. And he kind of stops what he's doing. And he's like, you want MHC. You don't want to be at Transworld for something like that. It was Alan Hops. And
Oh,
I had no idea who Alan Hops was. He's the owner of Dark Hour, yeah, out in Texas, the legendary Alan Hops. So yeah, I didn't know who he was, and we walked away and found out who he was, and I felt like the biggest asshole in the entire world. Since then, we've talked about it and we've made up, but like at the time, man, I felt like such an asshole. And realistically, that he wasn't wrong. He was right. MHC is really actor based.
okay.
So
Yeah.
that's the biggest difference, I would say.
I enjoyed this past year was my first time at MHC, and I really enjoyed it. I'm definitely
Sure.
going back again this year. And I mean, Alan went through the Chicago Haunt Builders little mini pop-up haunted house. It was like 3 or 4 rooms, but nicely done by for the haunt builders, which we are a part of, as I mentioned every episode. But he came through, and I think I was the only one in there. I'm not sure about the others, but I want to say I was the only one in there that kind of realized who he was. And still did my job. I only volunteered for a couple of hours. I did not put it up. I give credit to all the. It was actually the ones that Days of the Living Dead partnered with to do an episode this past year. It was The Nightmare in Manuka. It was their cast and crew. They're haunt builders like us, and they did a really nice job of setting everything up. But he went through, and I just decided to volunteer for a couple hours and bring my costume. And that was another thing too, is when I was texting back and forth with it was Michael Peters who had set up all the acting hours and of course set up the haunt. I said, is it okay? Like my character has a literal Negan bat that has I put actual barbed wire on it. Like I'm bringing this into Donald Lee Stevens Convention Center. Like, is that am I gonna get frisked? And he's like, no, that's fine. I'm like, you sure? Like this is a legitimate weapon. So he's like, as long as you're not, swinging it at people. And I'm like, yeah, of course not. But like, just want to make sure because I've never been to one of these before and not sure what is allowed because I don't want anybody bringing in like full on real machetes or anything. But yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. He went through that. Saw a couple of really cool faces come through there, and yeah, MHC. I'll be back again this year, like I said. But I always hear such a big deal about Trans World, and I know the haunt builders always go down, and I will hit it eventually, even from a home haunter standpoint. But like you said, I feel like Midwest Haunters is the one to be at. That's where I made a lot of extra connections for the podcast too, which was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And that's part of it too. Transworld, MHC, East Coast, all these conventions, like for me, a lot of it's networking. You
Yeah.
get to meet these people, and just talk and rub elbows with them and just find out, like I said, my new costume, I waited until MHC to even talk to that about anybody. And
Wow.
and
Yeah.
finally had the opportunity to sit down and talk with these people like, hey, what can we do about this? Can we try that? Can we try, um, also got a few gigs for the season too, talk with some owners. And it really, really is the networking is very important in the haunt world. And these are the
Yeah.
places you do it at.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, absolutely. Speaking of networking, like I just said, I do it for this podcast. I was told by Caleb that you have a podcast yourself, and you were telling me that you just jumped on an episode with you said Sharky and who was the third that was on? Was
Oh,
was that your podcast?
no, 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 that wasn't me. That was for Dozer Entertainment. Um,
Okay.
Dozer and Sammy Chainsaw. They're photographers for turn like YouTubers. They were haunters at one time, but I don't know if they haunt anymore. I think they still do. I don't know. They're good
Okay.
people. So, no,
But
that
you have
was okay.
yours,
I
right?
do. I do. Yesterday was Sharky, Pongo Joe, and myself. And yeah, that was a great episode. That was a lot of fun. Mine is, it didn't, I don't want to say I lost interest, but I kind of lost interest. Um, it it's called a Haunter's Confession, and the premise of it is that we've all seen the glory of haunting. We've all seen the awesomeness, the oh, this place is so cool, or oh, this costume is so cool, or did you hear about so and so? They're awesome. Very, very rarely do we ever hear about the bad stuff that happens. We don't talk about, like missing the next day of work, for instance, travel haunting, competition, social media, being rejected from family. We don't ever touch upon these stuff that, that doesn't get a lot of limelight. And I really wanted to talk about that because with a lot of these things, I travel, half of my gig is I travel act. And I've been to so many different haunts all over the United States. And we were just talking about this. It's fun. You live like a rock star, but it's not all glam. It's not. You wake up in some weird motel, makeup still caked on. You can't move from the night before.
My gosh.
Crawl yeah, it's just shower, Waffle House, and try and find your way back. You're bored for a couple hours, and then, the hype, and then you just travel to the next state, like it's cool. Don't get me wrong. It's fun, but there's just a lot that people don't see behind it, you know, fighting with owners to get paid, you know what I mean? Trying to keep up with your schedule, missing your loved ones at home, stuff like that, and it's just, but anyways, so I did about 6 episodes, and also too, I wanted to keep them between 5 and 15 minutes, just
Okay.
real quick, a rapid fire of questions basically.
Yeah.
And and I did, like, I have like four more I haven't posted yet. But yeah, I don't it started with some great ambition, but like I said, I think I just kind of lost interest, but maybe possibly when we get closer to haunt season, I'll pick it up again.
Yeah, it is tough to keep up with content and stay consistent, and that's mostly where the listenership and the clicks are going to come from. But I like what you're doing there, because I mean that's a side that, I mean, I hear things here and there, but that's a side that, like you said, doesn't really get thrown out there into the limelight enough. I feel like there's already enough of, well, even just testimonials of people saying, yeah, as a haunt actor, we get abused in the line and all that kind of stuff, and you hear, a lot of the do's and don'ts. But yeah, the daily life stuff is something that I feel that we don't even cover here on this podcast a whole lot, just because I like to, like, with what we did here tonight, is bring out the good things and the cool things, and what have you done in your career, and how do fans get to connect with you more. But yeah, a lot of the therapeutical side of things, like you guys are
Mm.
sitting there for 15 minutes just kind of venting, which is, it sounds good. I'll have to go check that out. Where can we find those? Are those up on platforms?
There, yes, on my Instagram, there are links in my bio. It's called A Haunter's Confession, or you can just look it up on YouTube.
Okay.
Slider Jesus. If you look up Slider Jesus, you'll have all those plus all my little short videos and all that. So
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah,
even
yeah.
you, like, I would love to interview you about being a home haunter. What kind of struggles do you go through with that? How much money do you spend into, you know what I mean? Like, so, what do your neighbors think? Like all that. See, I want to know all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, let's do it. As long as my mom doesn't listen to the episode, because the budget questions, yeah. No, I got you. Yeah, no, you've got all your links in here. I'm even seeing an OnlyFans. Is that correct?
Oh boy. Yes, that's correct.
I will. There's also Slider Jesus merch. I'll click on that one. I'll go for
There
that
you
one.
go.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll have to go give that a listen. And yeah, if you if you're getting back to it, I'd be happy to hop on and give. There's a lot of other haunters that do an even better display than we do, that I would put you in touch with if you're not already. I'm sure you've met them, even just shaking hands with them at some point. That their testimonials of what they do on their lawns is, I that would blow mine out of the water. So we may have to collab on that a little bit. That'd be cool.
I love it. I love it, man.
But so
So,
you had also mentioned a point that I kind of also wanted to circle back to before we wrap up, which is the copycat stuff, which
mm,
most of the time in this industry, I think imitation is the highest form of flattery, which is why we pull a lot of ideas from all the haunts that we've seen, whether they're haunted houses or home haunts. And of course, we put our own personal touch on it and work with the environment that we have. But there is that also that negative side to it too, that you mentioned, that people are kind of, it sounds like, just straight up copying you, which is also a point I brought up with Chainz, because his outfit to, un what's the word I'm looking for, the people who don't follow this stuff like we do, they've mistaken him for Fluffy, because it is
mhm.
this straitjacket outfit, and he's mostly got the white, but he's got the racing patches on. And he was like, I had no intention of copying Fluffy, and I hope I still don't, you know, take anything away from that. But for you, for your distinct look, for somebody to copy that, that's a little bit too much on the nose, I feel.
You'd be surprised. I could send you some pictures of people in other states. They have the shirt, the pants, the mask.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I really, I'm like, wow, you went out of your way. Same makeup, everything.
Yeah.
And here's, I don't mind that. They're gonna go do what they're gonna do. That's fine. They're gonna get mistaken for me, and I guess hope I help them get them laid. I guess I don't know. Um, I don't know why you're copying me like this, but anyways, there was a point in my time when I was the only one doing the sliding with the sparks, right? And then I told a few friends and we sold some stuff, which is great. It's fine. I didn't mind that. Sooner or later, I would do my bit and customers would be like, "Oh, I saw the guys at Six Flags do that," or somebody did say to me one time, "Oh, that guy copied the people from Fright Fest,"
Oh.
and I'm like, "Motherfucker, I
Uh,
taught them." And here's the thing: I don't know anybody that works at any of those, so like that tells me people are just kind of like studying me, copying me, and just rebrandishing it. It's like, okay, I see you.
yeah.
Uh,
I don't know anybody that does any of the haunt acting there either. We had a group come through here because so we're in Schaumburg, so I guess they had come down from Gurnee. They went to Six Flags earlier, and we charge a donation fee to get in since we're not an actual business. But our actors put in a lot, and I want to make sure that they get some kind of payment for all their hard work of setting it up every year and stuff. So it's $5 typically, or if it's somebody we know, all right, or if it's somebody that's gonna gripe about $5, then you know it's fine. We'll just let them go through. But they were like, this was so much better than Fight Fest because this was actually somewhat scary. It was obviously much shorter, but they were like, we felt it was way more worth the price of admission. And I've met one person through my time in the business world of I guess he was a manager at Fright Fest, or well, at Six Flags itself, and he was going on and raving about Fright Fest. And I like the guy and all, but you know, and no hard feelings towards him, but I have not heard a whole lot of good news that comes out of Fright Fest because most of the time people are there for the extra month of the rides, and I guess they
mhm.
open up a few haunted houses, but acting there, it just seems like it's not primary priority because and I want to say the excuse is, oh, you're in this big, wide concrete walkway and it's hard for somebody to sneak up on you. But then you see stuff like Not Scary Farms and they're doing just fine. I mean,
Yeah.
they've got some talented actors over there and they do a nice job. So it's not even that it's this big Six Flags park. So yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
Without stepping on too many toes and making too many enemies, um, it's these theme parks aren't set up to be a haunted attraction. They are in the sense that they have a bunch of room, but like they were never built to do, like Statesville, Hell's Gate. It's all set up and tear down stuff. So these major haunted houses, they spend all year long building and acting and training, and these kind of bigger corporations, they don't necessarily sink a whole lot into that, you know
Yeah.
and whatever, it's still fun. I still enjoy it. I've been to one time because it's really hard to go to them now. And they're cool, don't get me wrong, they're cool, but like I you know it's the difference between a corporate owning it and somebody with some passion, like, and I mean that politely as I can. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, we've had there was a haunt that opened up here by us that it was in South Barrington, the Arboretum actually this past year. I don't know if you saw that one. It was oh gosh, they're gonna shoot me because I had both the creative director, the owners basically of this haunt on the podcast. Really nice guys, and I gotta go back into my podcasts to actually look up names. This is so bad. Don't shoot
The
me.
name of the haunt?
It was Scott Swenson and Jeffrey Holmes, who were they were opening up. This is
Roulette? Was
Terror
it
Roulette.
roulette?
Yep. They're the. I want to make sure I get these titles right. Creative director Scott Swenson and producer Jeffrey Holmes. And Jeffrey actually called me later on in the season and said, because we had gone through theirs very early on. He said, "I'm sorry you guys went through so early because we weren't pleased with what we put out there, and we completely did a 180 and changed everything to make it better." And I thought it was good even going through the first time. Sure, I thought there were a couple things that they talked a big game on the podcast, and when we went through as a haunter, like we said, I'm not always super scared, but I had an enjoyable time, right? And they were like, "No, we made it so much better." But both of those men have worked on the amusement park side of stuff. So yeah, like you said, typically for those amusement parks like Six Flags or Busch Gardens or they're set up to be that. But these guys did a nice job from what I've heard in those elements as well. And then they brought it to a haunted house, and they got to actually devote their time and energy into making it a haunted house rather than like Six Flags type of adventure.
Gotcha.
But yeah, other than the new costume for you, the upgrades that are coming on the way, what is next for Slider Jesus? What can fans expect for the rest of 2024 and beyond? Are you headed to the Rotten Trails Revenge, which is the Basement of the Dead Easter event? Because I know you do some of
Oh,
the odd holiday events. That's
I
coming up this
do.
next weekend.
Is it really shit?
Yeah.
Um, I'm not going to be able to make that one. Um, fun fact. I actually just joined up with a motorcycle club.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah. So that's been I'm actually a probational member right now. So that being said, that's actually taken a lot of my time away weekend wise. So my weekends are very, very kind of planned out these days. But I will say I will be at Midwest Haunters, and I will be at Woods of Terror for their halfway to Halloween event, which is the only
Oh,
yeah, it's the second time that they've ever done this. So very, very excited about that. And actually, a little bit more upcoming here is I will be at Fear Expo giving a class on social media on Saturday. So um,
awesome. Oh, is
yeah,
that
yeah.
that's at Rosemont too, isn't it? Or
No,
no?
that's in Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's like right on the border of Kentucky in Ohio. So it's not too far away. But that's another really great convention. I was there last year, and they treated us like gold. So that was a pretty cool convention. Very
That's
actor
awesome.
based. So,
Gotcha.
but other than that, I don't really know. Season wise, I can't really talk about right now because I'm still in the works of some deals going on. So, but I'll be posting about everything. So,
Cool. Yeah, well, hopefully we will see you at Hell's Gate. I know you guys always enjoy playing in that tent and having fun there. I didn't release a couple other things as far as names earlier on when we were talking, so I think I'm okay to talk about this one. Hey everyone, apologies. The next topic that Slider and I are about to go into, I cannot release to the public yet. I'm going to try my best to keep some parts of it in because I do want to tease that something very huge is going to be on the docket and in the works for next October between myself and HellsGate and a third party that I cannot name, but a lot still needs to be done. Emails need to be sent, approval needs to be granted in order for us to go through with this idea. So I want to let you listen to at least some of what we talked about just so that you're as excited as I am to find out what is going on. But in the meantime, you'll just have to wait and I will have to plan. Thanks. Was of the is a friend of mine, and we invited her to come to Voodoo last year. And she is not a haunted house person by any means. She's like, nope. She's like, I would not have made it through alive. So she said, I'm sorry I didn't come, but is a big Halloween fan, supposedly. So we want to get at a haunted house this October. So I will be reaching out to a lot of the HellsGate crew, including John Flamboy, and seeing what we can kind of cook up there. Want me to be kind of like a middleman liaison between like a content piece for both sides, I guess is what it would be. So we'll see if we can
Wow.
get in there. And yeah, this is the first time I'm saying anything about it. Other than a few conversations, nothing is actually in the works, but it all, as we said, all it takes is a few social media messages, maybe a couple emails, and we'll be good. So Slider Jesus collaboration may be in the works.
Oh my God. Don't tempt
So
me. Oh man. Um, yeah, wow, that'd be fun. Yeah.
I'm excited for that. And of course, like you said, the halfway to Halloween stuff. I know a lot more people are doing that. There's one at Old Joliet right up the block from you that we do have a
Uh,
ticket for somewhere around here. So I gotta call the number and make some connections, but hopefully get them on to talk about that beforehand too. So
sure.
year-round Halloween is always fun. But yeah, we'll see you whatever the next event other than this Easter one is, and excited whether that be even MHC. I'm very excited.
So I'll be on the
Cool, man.
lookout. I'll be posting everything and we'll meet up eventually. You're not too far from me. So yeah.
Absolutely, man. Good luck with the motorcycle riding. You maybe wear those knee pads even when you're riding, like you would if you're sliding. So, just so that we have a slider Jesus in the future.
That's funny. I'll be all right.
Okay, good, good. But thank you again for hopping on, man. I know this was a lot of fun, and yeah, if you want to do that podcast, let me know. We'll put you in touch with some good people if it's not myself too.
Oh yeah, man. We'll be in touch, man. I appreciate that. So
Absolutely,
well,
we gotta
thank
go
you,
see
friend.
Scott
I really
Darwin.
yeah, we'll see, man.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for hopping on. Everyone, this has been Slider Jesus. I know, well, we didn't even use your name in this. I don't know if you want to. I know,
No, I don't care anymore.
oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Nick had used your name, so I'll keep you
No,
under wraps.
it's Cody.
Yeah, yeah. He did say
Here,
Cody. I didn't even, I was like, I was going to use it, but that's okay. Well, you're just
no,
Slider Jesus to us.
I used to hate it, but like nowadays I just don't care. So yeah, it's
That's
fine.
fine.
Call me whatever you want.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, man. I'll let you get going, and we will talk to you soon.
All right, man. Take care of yourself.
Once again, huge thanks to Slider Jesus for jumping on, aka Cody. We heard a lot about him from other haunters, such as Caleb Wimbush and Chainz, aka Nicholas Serralo, but getting to meet and interact with Slider Jesus was phenomenal. Just an outstanding interview. Go check out all of his links. It sounded like I was shaming with the OnlyFans comment. We don't shame here. That's just not a link that I will be clicking on. But ladies, I guess if you're out there or anybody that's into that kind of stuff, um, I'm in no mood to make one myself. So you'll just have to find me here at the podcast. But yeah, let's get into some of the events that we have coming up. There is an Easter haunted house. It is Rotten Tail's Revenge. So, like Peter Cottontail. That is March 29th and March 30th. So, this weekend, unfortunately, if you're listening to this podcast late, you've already missed it. But go there, get your discounted tickets now. That's at Basement of the Dead in Aurora. And you can find those tickets on basementofthedead.com. Easter, man. Easter haunted houses. That's crazy. March 29th and 30th, probably 7 to 10 p.m. Yes, 7 to 10 p.m. both nights. And then we better preview the halfway to Halloween events. Those are probably coming in May. The one that we do know about so far is the Old Joliet Haunted Prison. That is May 3rd and 4th. You can get on a wait list for tickets right now. And hint, hint, we will be talking with some Old Joliet Haunted Prison people beforehand. So you'll get some more information, hopefully in April, before that event happens. As far as music, movies, TV, all that kind of stuff. I guess not really any music going on right now, but movies and TV, there are a lot of horror movies coming out right now. It's kind of crazy to say that. It's March, but here we are on this podcast. You have Sydney Sweeney in Immaculate, which looks very good. You have The First Omen, which is another storyline that looks very similar. Something to do with the devil and maybe like a nun or a maid having a child that could be the Antichrist. You'll have to go and check those out and let me know. I may get a chance to go and check those out myself and kind of break those down. There's another movie coming out that has Giancarlo Esposito in it. It looks very good. It's from Shudder, but apparently it is going to be in movie theaters, and it has to do with I think this one's a little bit of a twist. It looks like they're kidnapping a child that turns out to end up being some kind of vampire. It is Abigail the movie. Well, just Abigail, but looks pretty good. And then there's another one coming out from Shudder that is called A Late Night with the Devil. And David Dalsmakian, he's been in numerous movies, including The Dark Knight, Dark Knight Rises, the new Suicide Squad. He does a really good job. You may not know him by name, but you'd recognize the face if you've seen any of those movies. Let's get into the TV show side of things. And this is where I am going to tell you to skip to the end of the episode or just don't listen to any more of this episode until you've caught up on The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. I'm going to break this down as quickly as possible, but it's going to be a lot of spoilers. So, like I said, this is your last warning. Do not listen to the rest of this episode until you have caught up. Ready? Three, two, one. Okay. So, Rick loses a hand trying to escape. That is crazy. A little reminiscent of when he was told to cut Carl's hand off with the axe by Negan multiple times. Luckily, that didn't happen. But speaking of Carl, Rick loses Carl. Like he can't even picture Carl's face, which is crazy. Michonne commutes all the way from what it seems like across the country to find Rick. She eventually does and realizes that he is a part of the CRM, kinda. And the CRM is also the helicopter group that took out all of her friends that helped her along the way and almost killed her as well with some poisonous gas. It was, I don't think it was carbon monoxide. I got to go back and check, but or it might have been some kind of tear gas. It got into her lungs and everybody else, and basically killed everybody she was with except for a little guy. And then he ended up dying when she ambushed Rick's helicopter, killing Rick's lieutenant and pretty much everybody except for Rick and one other soldier that was able to shoot her friend before they were able to fully reunite. Of course, then Rick has to take her in and play the secret of, oh, I didn't know her before all of this. So really good storyline there. Pretty good action too. I thought we were going to get a little bit more. We may get it in the season finale, which will be on Easter, crazy enough. But thus far, Rick and Michonne were playing dead. They try to run away from the CRM and get back to Alexandria. The problem is Jadis, aka Anne, is keeping them from doing that. And she ends up tracking them down because she has a hunch. She knows that they're not really dead. She sees there's a yellow truck missing from the point in which Rick and Michonne's helicopter was crashed into a building and then the building was leveled by other helicopters. So Jadis was onto them, aka Anne. Anne had her secret relationship still going on once a year with Father Gabriel. And then she meets up with Rick and Michonne. Spoiler alert, Rick and Michonne end her kind of reluctantly because they don't want the CRM to find out about Alexandria. And Gabriel is left all alone in the woods because he thinks Anne has abandoned him and chosen her side, which is the CRM. But really, she's no more. Now Rick and Michonne have to get back home and warn everybody if they can, or they're going to go to the CRM, which sounds like that's their actual plan, and take it down from the inside so that they don't go after their family. That makes for what I hope is going to be one epic conclusion and probably set up the movies that they said that they're going to make. Honestly, this has been probably the best series of the spin-offs. Other than, I mean, I had high hopes for Dead City. That fell a little bit short, but it had some good moments. The Daryl Dixon show, that was all right. I watched The World Beyond to set myself up for a show like this to learn more about the CRM. It makes more sense when you do. But I mean, this is all culminating to this one big season finale, where I hope they put a lot more of a bow on this series. But then we're gonna get another Daryl Dixon season and probably another Dead City season as well. So the Walking Dead world never ends. Also, this Rick and Michonne series, I get that they haven't seen each other in years, but can we drop the lovey-dovey storyline already? I think I've seen them kiss a million times. Like, I'm all for finding true love, but man, is it getting annoying. I just want to see some zombies get killed. That's all. So that is your recap. Once again, this has been the March episode of the Voodoo Podcast. Thank you again to Slider Jesus for jumping on. We will be in talks with him and some others in order to bring you some really cool content later on this year. And until the April episode, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.